All right, so starting off here, we're going to be talking about microeconomics. Microeconomics is part of economic theory that deals with behavior and decision making by individual units such as people and firms, so consumers and producers. Pardon me. Collectively, microeconomics explain how prices are determined and how individual economic decisions are made. There are two main factors of microeconomics being supply and demand. We'll start with the latter. Demand is the desire, ability, and willingness to buy a product. Demand of a product can be represented in two main ways: the demand schedule or the demand curve. Up in the top left of the graph page here is a demand curve. Uh, Demand curve. Uh, Hang on, I lost my place. Both graphs show the quantity of product demanded at any given price. So looking back at our graph, we can see that price and quantity are inversely related. So the more you have a product, the less people are going to be willing to pay for that product because you have a surplus of it. It's not as valuable as it was. So therefore, your demand will go down, or your demand will increase the less you charge for a product. That is called the law of demand when they inversely relate. There's a lot of things that affect demand, such as consumer income, tastes, consumer expectations, cost of substitute products. There's a couple others, but they all contribute to a change in demand. Now back to our other main principle of microeconomics, supply. Supply is defined as the amount of product that would be offered for sale at a possible price and that could prevail in the market. Producers receive payment for their products like as incentive to produce more at higher prices. That is the basis of the law of supply. Higher quantities equal higher prices, lower quantities equal lower prices, because not as many people are going to be buying, one item for $1 when they can see that they can buy 10 for 8, as seen as our graph labeled supply there, second from the left. Again, this is represented with a supply curve. So C graph, for example. Supply changes in many ways. So cost of resources change. Efficiency with resources could change as well. Productivity increases. New technology could be introduced to affect all that stuff. Supply and demand are constantly changing. But in combining these two potential shifts, equilibrium is constantly subjected to both factors resulting in supply shifts and factors resulting in demand shifts. Due to the demand curve sloping downward and the supply curve sloping upward, they inadvertently will cross at some given point on any supply and demand chart. So as you can see from the second from the right in the top row, there's a supply and demand graph. This cross section is called the equilibrium price, and it serves as a price and quantity tracking point based on consistent inputs of overall supply and demand availability. Any change in either supply and demand will result in an immediate impact on equilibrium, balancing the new demand or supply with the corresponding volume and appropriate average price point. So, as we know in graphs, if you're going to the right and upward, it's a positive change. If you're going down to the left, it's a negative change for most graphs. So looking at the graph in the top right corner labeled positive change in demand. So let's say you are a bubblegum company and you want to sell one stick of gum for $8 or $7, $6.50, whatever. But not a lot of people are going to buy that. Only one person's going to want to buy it at that price. So you do some focus grouping, some testing, and you put your product out on the market and see that people are willing to pay more money for it to match your supply if you put it at that specific price point. So that's your equilibrium price. Because the supply demanded and the price that you can set it as equal an equal benefit for both the consumer and the producer. So let's say demand changes by mainly consumer-based stuff, as well as some other market principles such as like substitute products, like cost benefits, stuff like that. So let's say you get a great review online about your bubblegum and your demand shoots up. More people are willing to purchase your bubblegum, so your supply increases, or you need to increase your supply. So what you do, which increases your demand as well, which moves it to the right because it's a positive change, is, as we all know, moving to the right in the graph represents a positive motion. So now you can, as you move your equilibrium price up, your price changes as well. So now you can pay, you can charge $5.50 or $6 or whatever for your sticks of gum, and more people are going to be willing to buy that. Moving down in the bottom left corner, we can see a positive change in supply. Again, let's say you make model cars or something like that, and you make 4 model cars and you sell them at $4 each. Because then you don't have like a surplus of model cars if you sell it at a lower price, and you don't have a shortage if you sell it at a higher price, stuff like that. So, and then they come out with a new way to cut out model car stuff or something. New plastic molds, who knows? They make it more efficient. Your cost of resources go down. You can be more efficient with, your build time and how much you can supply to your model car store. So you drop your price because you have more supply, which makes them less valuable. More people are going to, and less people are going to want to buy it because its value changed. So you can drop the price to not have any waste or shortages or surpluses or anything. Negative change in demand. Moving over here, second from the left. Again, going back to our bubble gum example, we can see your original demand right here. So you got that amazing review online, which moved your demand and your equilibrium up. So now you can sell it at a higher price and supply more to the consumers. But then, oh no, disaster strikes. You have a rival bubblegum company pop up in your neighborhood. So now you have to drop your prices to match their prices. That way people are still going to be buying yours. Since there's another company involved in the marketplace, another producer, there's going to be competition, and that'll drop your demand down because they have another option to go to. So as the demand moved, the equilibrium price dropped as well because less people are going to be willing to buy his product. So you can't charge more for it unless he wants to have a shortage or a surplus or anything like that. Negative change in supply. So starting supply one right here. They found out that new way to make model cars, and you're doing really good with it. You had to drop your price, but you're still making a lot, so you're still getting bang for your resource costs. But then disaster strikes, your little brother steals your knife, so you can't cut out your plastic molds anymore. So your efficiency, your productivity drops, meaning your supply drops, so they become more valuable because there's not as many in the marketplace. Therefore, you can raise your prices to keep to match the quantity that you do have available to sell. Now, through all these changes in supply, there are 4 main areas where you don't want to be. Equilibrium is obviously the best place to be because that's where both consumer and producer are not wasting any money, or they're not, there's not an unfair advantage in any way because they're both getting, an equal trade. So looking at the bottom right here, I kind of labeled that out. So when there's a higher supply than you have demand, you have a surplus. So an example of that would be like I make 10 model cars and only 8 kids want to buy my model cars. So I have 2 model cars to just sit in my room. That's not cool because I wanted to sell them. So you wasted your supplies there. So you do have a surplus of your product, but necessarily wasn't really worth the trade-off. Another thing, let's say you only make 10 model cars and 12 of your friends want to buy your model cars. If you have a shortage, they're not going to be happy. Their tastes are going to change if you're going to get a bad review online, which will cause your demand to drop. So again, you want to keep it at your equilibrium price. Gains from trade is labeled on the left there. Kind of moved it down there because it didn't really fit. But that's when both supplier and consumers have positive gains from trade, or they feel like they have positive gains. So like if I pay you, if I pay you $5 or, hang on, let me think about that. Yeah, no. It's if I pay you like $5 for $5 worth of model cars, and that's a gain from trade. Um, or $5 for $6 worth of model cars. That's a gain from trade on my part as a consumer. It's a waste on your part as a producer. because it's not an equal point of trading. So what you want to do is you want to get that $5 worth of $5 worth of model cars. So that's where you want to get back to equilibrium. And when you're getting paid $5 for $6 worth of model cars stuff, then that's a waste on the producer's part, and those are negative gains. So all of this factors in with supply and demand curve, and what that determines is market prices and stuff like that. There are a couple different ways as well that you could have shortages and surpluses and stuff due to like price ceilings and price floors and stuff like that. But all in all, supply and demand changes through both the consumers and their expectations, tastes, their income levels, stuff like that, as well as productivity and efficiency changes, new technology, stuff like that. And all these contribute to finding equilibrium, which is the best possible price point for any given product. So thank you, and that'll be all.